Thank you all for joining us for the Graduate Experience Diversity section on relocating as an international student. As a reminder, live captioning is available and this section is being recorded. As questions come up for you, please feel free to put it in the Q&A section. It may not be possible for us to actually address all of your questions, but you can always reach out to the Office of the Graduate Diversity. You can contact us through this email that I've put in the chat. And then you can also reach out to the Community and Diversity Fellow Office Hours, which I'm also going to put in the chat here. Yeah, we'll be willing to address all these questions that you have if we are not able to do that in this current section. So right now, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to introduce the Berkeley. I'm going to hand over to the Berkeley International Office reps so that they take it over from here.
Thank you so much, Mikey. And we do have some more information here about the Diversity and Community Fellows. You can definitely make appointments here, so you can find out more about them here. But to begin with, I want to first and foremost welcome you to this presentation about relocating as an international student. This is a joint presentation by the Berkeley International Office with UC Berkeley's Graduate Division. And this presentation is a part of the series put on by the Graduate Division called Experience Diversity. So thank you to Mikey and to Sean from the Graduate Division for having us here today and for the support and collaboration. We really appreciate the opportunity. But to begin with, I do want to go through introductions of our presenters today. My name is Jeremiah Lee. I'm an international student advisor at the Berkeley International Office, also called as BIO. With me today, I have my colleague, Wasim Yunus. Wasim, let's a little shout to maybe a...
Good afternoon, everybody.
Excellent. And with me, we do have, besides Wasim and I, we work in the BIO office, but we have two international students here with you from graduate international students. First, we have Jen Hao. And then we also have Okay.
Hi, everyone.
Well, thank you so much, Jen Hao and Okay, for coming. Your experiences as students are going to be so valuable for these incoming students as well. So we really appreciate you being here today. So quick about a little bit about the agenda. I know we've talked about this already. We are going to have a short welcome, which we're going through now. And after this welcome, we're going to go into really the information sharing, which is the bulk of the presentation today. We will have to answer questions. There is a Q&A chat in the Q&A area. We're going to answer those at the end of the presentation. We do have a lot of information to get through in an hour, so we're going to go very quickly, but we will do our best to answer your questions at the end of the presentation as well. And before we do begin, I want to point out this to you all. This is the arrival guide. This is the guide that is on our Berkeley International Office website that is really a PDF document about all of the information that we're going to cover today, a lot of tips and tricks, and a lot of things that we're not even going to talk about today. Please, please, please check out the arrival guide. It's going to have so much great information for you that is covered here and even things that's beyond what we're covered here today. So to begin with, I want to introduce to you our office, the Berkeley International Office. And as I mentioned, we're often referred to BIO, B-I-O. Our office serves as the first point of contact for international student concerns. So as you can see from our mission statement, our role is to support international students and scholars with expertise in advising, immigration services, advocacy, and programming. We have virtual and in-person advising hours, so you can come and speak to advisors about your concerns. If we don't know the answer, or if it's something that we're not specialized in, we'll point you in the right direction on where to go and to get your issues resolved. We have those in-person and virtual advising sessions. And we're the only office on campus that provides immigration support. So we are immigration specialists in our office. And we're here to support you with your immigration concerns throughout your studies here. And really, we're the only ones on campus who produce the visa documents and support those. So definitely come to us for any immigration questions you have. And rather than going on more and more about what type of services we provide at BIO, I wanted to, and you're going to hear this a lot from me, I want to ask the perspective of our two students here. So Jen Hao and Okay, I want to pass it off to you. What has been your experience working with our office, with BIO? And I guess how has BIO helped you as well? So either Jen Hao or Okay, I'll pass it off to you really briefly.
You want to
Jinhao?
go first, Jinhao?
Okay, all right.
Okay, so for
yeah, please go ahead.
so for my experience as an international student and advice to other international students, the first point of call for you when you have problems or any issues at all and your question should be bio. And bio has helped me in many ways that I can't even remember. So, and they're efficient, they respond on time, they have answers to every question you have as an international student.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. And that's a great plug. We didn't even ask you to say that, but Jinhao?
Yeah, so I want to recommend especially a kind of event or like it's kind of activity called orientation leaders that you will be joining kind of part of the bio, and you will welcome the also other new international students, both undergrad and grad students. I joined this orientation leader I think last year, and it was a fantastic moment. Like you will meet a lot of people from all across the globe. So I think I feel very surprised after I came here. Like I met much more international students than I have ever thought. So I highly recommend it.
Yeah, Jinhao was a great support to us. We rely on our international students, like orientation leaders, to help provide that support to international students. So we're very appreciative of, student leaders such as Jinhao and Oke, who are volunteering their time here today, and continue to do so for our international students. So thank you both again for being here, and definitely take part in opportunities to get involved with our office or with the other international students. So as we continue along, one question you may have is, where is UC Berkeley and where should I live and what's this area look like? So UC Berkeley is located in Berkeley, California, which is a part of what we call the Bay Area. So imagine this is the west coast of the United States, the west coast. And this is where California is located. And I hope you have heard of San Francisco, our biggest city in the Bay Area. You can see over here on this side is where Berkeley is located. You can see a small line here. The Bay Area, as we call this, is a large area in Northern California. And what you probably know about San Francisco, and this is San Francisco in the Bay Area is often referred to as the city. San Francisco is a huge and thriving metropolis, and Berkeley is over here. And Berkeley is located on the East Bay across the bridge. It's a short car, bus, or train ride from the San Francisco over to the East Bay into the Berkeley area. And in fact, I live in San Francisco, and I commute over by train to Berkeley area every day. It's very easy and quick. Some other areas in the Bay Area that you should be aware of is over here again in the East Bay. Oakland is another big city you may have heard of before, and it's also located in the East Bay. Some more point of reference, the North Bay, this is really the Bay Area, right? This is the North Bay, where it says Marin County. This area is north of or cross over the very famous Golden Gate Bridge, and this is called North Bay. And down in this part, this is the South Bay and the peninsula. And really, we encourage you, so while this is all of the Bay Area, we encourage you to find accommodations closer to Berkeley, because as international students, in-person classes are a requirement. So you will be needing to commute for your classes pretty regularly. So we encourage you to find places near and probably in the East Bay to find your accommodations. I will leave it at that. I'm going to pass it off to my colleague Wasim now to talk a little bit more about campus resources.
Thank you so much, Jeremiah, and good afternoon, everybody. Nice to be here. Berkeley, it's a huge campus, a lot of students and diverse needs, right? We have a big diverse group of students here at Berkeley. So we have a lot of resources to help you, and two resources that you'll see on the screen here. Very popular ports of call for our students. On the left, you'll see the Martin Luther King Jr. building, also known as the ASUC Student Union. ASUC stands for Associated Students of University of California. So it really is the the hub, the center of where student activity lives. It's also right next to Sproul Plaza, which is also where you see a lot of student clubs setting up. So the Student Union is a great place for socializing, for unwinding after class, studying, grabbing a bite to eat, meeting new people. And there's also a lot of community events and co-curricular opportunities that you can get yourself involved in with here at the Student Union. On the right, you'll see the Career Engagement Center, which is a great source for students who are starting to make their steps into the world of building a career. And you might see the logo there for Handshake. Handshake is our on-campus job search tool. So there are resources available which will really help you kind of take your theoretical learning into the practical real world. And I believe, Jen Hao, you can tell us a little bit about your experience here at the Career Engagement Center. What did you find there that was helpful for you, Jen Hao?
Yeah, right. So one great part is they offer the free personality and career tests. They are two different separate tests. It's quite comprehensive, took about like half an hour for each. And also the key is that it can be quite expensive if you do those kind of assessments outside. So they are free assessment. I think for myself, it's very, very helpful in helping me understand my personality and my career choices better. And they will also, after you have done the test, will have like consular follow up, especially in explaining the details for the test for you. So highly recommended.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jen Hao. And anything free is certainly well received here, I think, right? So any resources that you don't have to spend any extra money for would be, I think, helpful. At the Career Center as well, there is one of the counselors Jen Hao refers to, Jing Han, who used to be an international student herself. And she has tons of experience, knowledge, and resources for international students who are starting to make their steps into the American job market. Thank you, Jeremiah. Next slide. Some more campus resources which you will absolutely want to acquaint yourself with. We've got in the bottom right, we've got University Health Services, also sometimes known as the Tang Center. Okay. Healthcare, we're going to talk about that a little bit later in this presentation, but healthcare is very different from what you are likely used to in your home country. But this University Health Services is there for you and serves a very diverse range of needs, including medical, mental health resources as well. We'll talk about health insurance a little bit later as well, which relates to the University Health Services. Above that, there is the Student Learning Center. Student Learning Center has an international student program, the ISP, which helps with academic support and gives you services to help kind of make your learning experience as positive as it can be. Obviously, the learning experience in America might be different from your home country as well. So the Student Learning Center provides you with resources to help kind of assimilate into the American educational system. On the left, we have the International House, which is not the same as the Berkeley International Office. International House, I think maybe okay, you can tell us a little bit more about the International House and what it provides for students. What would you say is kind of notable about International House? Okay.
So the International House is a dormitory, which is for international students from all over the world. That is the place I'm staying right now. And we have over 600 students from 90 countries plus living here. And it is both for all the genders and you can find basically someone from every country of the world in this place. So it is a mix of different cultural and academic experience here.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you so much. I think okay might even mention that later when we talk about making friends in Berkeley. It's really a community over there at International House. Jen Hao, okay, any other resources on campus that you have found very helpful that you'd want to give a quick shout to? Otherwise, we'll move on. Okay, any others?
So there's always something to do in the Bay Area. There's always something to do in the campus for everyone, whatever your test is, whatever you like, there's always something. There's poetry, there's dance clubs, there's music clubs, you can travel to SF through the BAT system, and there's zoos, there's museums. I mean, this area is like, for me, I think it is the most diverse and most enriching place in the United States. So for everyone, there's something to do.
I tend to agree with you. Thank you. Okay, lovely. I think we'll move on to the next slide, Jeremiah.
Great, and I think this section is for me. So some things you should be thinking about as you're starting to relocate. Of course, these daily life essentials, things that you need to do. So things that you should think about, of course, opening a US phone plan or getting a US bank, or where are you going to get your news from in the United States, right? Where can I get local news? So there are some great options for international students to get SIM cards from our on-campus providers, such as Campus SIMs and Student SIMs. We also usually have wireless providers like Cricket attending our in-person orientations when you arrive. If you haven't gotten a phone number yet or phone card yet, we're going to have cell phone providers at the orientation for you to be able to set those up. You know, opening a bank in the United States is really another essential task, and this is essentially important. It's especially true if you're bringing a lot of cash with you, which I know sometimes international students will do. We recommend that you set up a bank right away if this is your case, and deposit that cash just for safety purposes, right? Carrying a lot of cash, you know, maybe not advised. So there are many options in the area, but one option is BMO, which is the official bank of UC Berkeley. But there's many options, and I'm going to ask Jen Howe to share their experiences in a minute. But you know, for local news too, we have things like the Daily Californian, which is a local UC Berkeley area specific news organization. So even now, if you want to get on their app and start to learn more about the Berkeley area, it'd be great. But I'd like to get our students' perspective on this as they got here and started to settle in. Jen Howe and OK, how did you get a phone plan when you came here? And then also, like, how did you set up your bank account and what did you use? I saw you unmute yourself first, so.
Oh, so the first day I arrived, I got an account opened in the Bank of America, which is like 5 minutes walk from our house, International House. And the process was basically simple. Just have your passport and your visas and your admission letter, and then you have your account rolling, and you can deposit cash immediately and have it available or accessible in a few days.
Great, thank you. Okay, Jen, how about you? What's been your experience with getting a bank and getting your cell phone set up when you first got here?
Yeah, so I also set up my bank account at Chase. It's right next to the campus on my second day here. So I highly recommend everyone set up their bank account as soon as possible. And also try to get credit card as soon as possible as well, because in some situations, like for some car rental companies, they only accept credit card for the rider, and they don't accept debit card or cash in some situations. So getting a credit card would be very, very convenient.
Excellent. Thank you, Jen Howe. Moving on, Wasim, I think you're going to talk about housing for us.
Yes, I am. Thank you, Jeremiah. Housing is one of the most important topics that you'll need to address when it comes to making your transition to Berkeley. A lot of you might be trying to find a place before you arrive. Some of you might be waiting until you get here, which I think is also a good strategy. The best time of year to find vacancies is usually between May and July. And we have a few resources there on the slide, and we'll be sharing this with you later. All of these links that you see here on our page are also on our housing page on the Berkeley International Office website. There's also a section about housing in the arrival guide that Jeremiah mentioned earlier. And the first link that you'll see there is the Graduate Assembly Housing Guide, which is a very comprehensive kind of resource to get your head around how housing works in the United States. Okay. In terms of some tips and some tricks here, if you are going to be looking for a place after you arrive in America, so maybe you're going to be staying somewhere temporary to begin with, and you'll be using some time to find a more long-term accommodation, kind of tagging back to our last point, having a US cell phone number will be very helpful in terms of making calls and also getting return calls from prospective landlords or prospective rental agencies. A lot of the time you might find yourself playing what we call phone tag with prospective tenants or prospective landlords, where you might need to leave a message and they're going to want to call you back. So having a US phone number, even though it sounds very simple, is something that you can do to make your housing search a lot easier. Also, if you are going to be living in the Bay Area, but not specifically in Berkeley, you might want to consider renting a car for the first couple of weeks so that you can explore the area a little bit more easily, so that you can determine, for example, how far it really is from Oakland to campus or Emeryville to campus, for example. Prepare a tenant resume. I don't know if anybody knows what I mean by a tenant resume, but just like when you apply for a job and you have a resume showing your, education and your work experience, having a resume that shows your living experience and where you've lived in the past can really help potential landlords feel at ease with your history of accommodation. Obviously, if you've been living outside of America, landlords might want to see where you've been living and what your living situation has been over time. Similarly, in that note, you might want to come with a recommendation letter from one of your previous landlords or rental agencies if you've been a renter in the past, a recommendation letter that speaks to your credit history, your rental history, which might kind of make a landlord feel more at ease about giving you a place to stay. We are going to talk a little bit later about Berkeley neighborhoods. Getting at least a basic knowledge of the neighborhoods and what they offer and how they might differ is certainly a good place to start as well. The Berkeley neighborhoods are gone into in some detail in our arrival guide, and we'll talk about them briefly here. Okay. Also, make sure that you prepare a list of questions to ask a potential landlord, right? You might think that a question is, an easy question or a silly question, but when it comes to housing, there are no silly questions. If you're not sure about something, you should ask. And if there's ever anything that you feel is important to get down on paper, you want to commit that to paper as well. Okay. Same thing with potential roommates, right? If you are going to potentially be living with roommates here at Berkeley, you would want to meet them in person if possible, or at least via FaceTime, so that you can determine whether those people might be suitable for you, whether their living habits and your study habits will co-align, for example. Okay. In terms of the word on the left there, which was a kind of negative word there, scams. We do need to be cautious of housing scams because, of course, when it comes to housing, it's an area which some nefarious people out there might try and take advantage of. A few quick things in that regard, I would say, obviously, Facebook and Craigslist are good places to find accommodation, but also they carry a risk of some identity fraud or some kind of scam where someone might ask you to send them money before you actually come and visit the place. So please always be cautious about sending money to somebody who you have never met or spoken with in person. You should always be able to get, at the very least, a FaceTime tour of the property that you're looking at. If somebody ever says, oh, I cannot show you the place right now, but send me the deposit and it will work out later, red flag, right? So please be aware of the resources that we provide. I won't go over in detail here, but you can find them in our arrival guide. And of course, be alert for things like scams. And for those of you who are looking for temporary or even medium-term housing, and you are obviously grad students, Sabbatical Homes is a website which is used kind of similar to Airbnb, but it's more of an academic basis in terms of the people who are leasing those homes there or renting out their homes are usually faculty or staff at a university. So I've said a lot there, and there is a lot to know about housing. Maybe I'll just turn it over to OK first. OK, I know that you're an international house. How did you find your housing? What was your experience like? And what kind of resources or paperwork did you need to get started there?
So for International House, it's located in the middle of campus. So I find it easy to access most of my classes from here without using the bus or driving. And the application process was quite easy. Before coming, I came through the MasterCard Foundation, which is a scholarship for international students from Africa. And the process was just apply online through the International House website, and then you wait for about a month or less for the decisions to come, and you pay the deposits, and that's it. It's basically easy.
We like easy here at Berkeley. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. International House, I think. In fact, maybe before I go to you, Jen Hao, maybe Jeremiah, we can go into the next slide, because I think when Jen Hao is describing where he lives, because OK obviously lives in the kind of campus area, which is that kind of next to that reddish block. The reddish block there is downtown Berkeley, and then the campus is kind of right next to it. Jen Hao, which neighborhood are you in, and how did you find yourself there, and what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, so I live in the south side on the map. I live in a university dorm called Ida Louis Jackson Graduate House. So that's a house specific for grad students. The biggest advantage of this housing is super close to the campus. It's just 1 block away. So I can get to my department within 5 or 10 minutes walk. That's fantastic. Like it can be difficult to find both close and cheap housing around the campus. However, for Southside, there are a huge amount of undergrad student activities, especially during the semester and sometimes at very late night or very early morning. They will have super loud parties. So if you are concerned about noise, I would highly recommend you to think twice. That's the point I really want to mention. It has this advantage of being super close, but also you being surrounded by a lot of undergrad activities may be something you want to consider.
That's a great point, Jen Hao. I think with housing, that's a kind of speaks to my point earlier in terms of getting questions ready for a prospective landlord, right? I mean, if you have a family, the priorities that you have might be different from someone who is single, right, and moving to the Bay Area. So that's a great point there, Jen Hao, as well. And just to finish up in terms of these neighborhoods, all of these neighborhoods are really within, bus, public transport, BART, maybe even biking distance if you like to bike, all kind of easy access to campus, but they all have slightly different characteristics. Each of these neighborhoods that you see on the screen here are discussed in our arrival guide in more detail in terms of what differentiates them from different neighborhoods. So yeah, whichever neighborhood you find yourself in, Berkeley or outside, make sure you do your homework, but there are plenty of places around campus which should meet your needs or your family's needs as well. Okay, Jeremiah? And with diversity in our student body and our population at Berkeley, diversity in terms of the income levels of the town as well, we have a large variety in terms of our grocery outlets. We wanted to talk a little bit about shopping here, just because I think for some students, before they arrive, they might not have a great idea or a sense of, what the actual daily life looks like. And obviously being well fed is an important part of that. Okay, so just quickly in terms of the grocery outlets, the grocery offers that we have here, Whole Foods and Trader Joe's. Some of you guys might have heard of that. Trader Joe's and Whole Foods are two quite well-known outlets there, which are considered to be slightly more pricey, I suppose you could say. I mean, not super expensive, but on the other side of the scale is Lucky and the grocery outlet. So Lucky and Grocery Outlet are in Albany and Richmond, whereas Whole Foods and Trader Joe's are located kind of all over the Bay Area. Ranch 99. Ranch 99, if you are from an Asian country, is a place where you will be able to find ingredients and also restaurants that remind you of home. It's got a lot of selection. It's kind of like a smaller version of H Mart, which you might have heard of. Mi Tierra is a Mexican grocery store, which is located, I think, in 4th Street. Milan International is an Indian grocery store. We have a large Indian population based certainly around University Avenue as well. So Indian grocery stores are quite commonplace in the Bay Area. H Mart, which I referenced earlier, is a huge kind of shopping center for Asian foods in San Francisco. And Costco. Some of you might have heard of Costco. Costco is a membership required chain, but it offers some great prices on bulk goods meaning that you buy in larger amounts than typical. And it's also the cheapest place in the Bay Area to get gas, okay? So I think maybe in terms of grocery shopping, we could reach out to Jen Hao, tell us a little bit about what Southside has to offer here, and also maybe what kind of Asian grocery stores are available and any apps that you might use as well, Jen Hao.
Yeah, so I live on the south side, and one common grocery store is Safeway, a huge chain store. So as an Asian from Taiwan, like there is a online Asian grocery website called WEE. It has free grocery delivery for orders over than $35. So it's very convenient if you want to buy some Asian food. For in person, you can also go to a range 99, but it's a bit far from the campus.
Thank you, Jinhao. And I think, okay, you could also maybe tell us a little bit about some African grocery stores in the area.
Okay, so one beautiful thing about International House is I don't have to cook. So we have the selections of, yeah, it's a buffet. It's like I don't know, it's like a everyday party. And but for sometimes we always feel like having a taste of home. And I normally go with my friends to Oakland to get to get groceries from African. There's an African store called the African Caribbean Home Store, something like that. And then they sell everything that you can find in the continent and everywhere, all over the world, from all over the world. So I get my groceries from the African store in Oakland and sometimes in San Francisco.
Great stuff. Thank you. Okay. Jeremiah, we'll talk on the next slide about farmers markets. One comment that I do hear from international students when they come to America is, where's all the fresh food? We do have fresh food. We do have fresh produce. When we talk about produce, we mean fresh fruits and vegetables. Farmers markets are a great opportunity to kind of get out and meet people, but also to get some groceries at a slightly less expensive price than supermarkets. So Monterey Market and the Produce Center are two examples of produce markets, and farmers markets, which happen typically on Saturdays or sometimes through the week as well. Some good farmers markets. There's the North Shattuck Organic Farmers Market, the El Cerrito Plaza Farmers Market, the Oakland Chinatown Market, which is huge and really good. And then there's also farmers markets in San Francisco as well. Certainly, I think a good alternative to a grocery store for fresh food. And I think in terms of alternatives to grocery stores, convenience stores are also worth noting as well, because they are often open late, sometimes even 24 hours. Obviously, they can often come with a pharmacy. So if you need to get any medications, and 7-Eleven, Walgreens, CVS are just three examples of those. Okay. I think in terms of farmers markets, Jen Hao, you had a quick comment to make there about the Monterey Market, which is the first on our list there, right?
Yeah. So Monterey Market is fantastic. I went there many times. The food and the price is like excellent, and it has, so for my experience, it has most of the freshest vegetables and eggs, and the price is surprisingly usually cheaper a little bit. So if you want to go there by bus, it's roughly 20 to 30 minutes ride. So sometimes I will have my friends who is also going there, and we'll just carpool. I also try to go there by myself. Then I will usually bus there, because bus is covered in you will have a bus pass. On the way back, because I will have handful of bags of groceries, I will then take an Uber or Lyft.
Great stuff, Jen Hao. Thank you so much. We are going to try and answer as many questions as we can. Maybe at the end when we have Q&A, we'll try and do that. But one question that I did see come in is there any halal restaurants? The answer to that is a big yes. There are plenty of halal restaurants in the Berkeley area and in the Bay Area as well. I mean, several just near where our office is in downtown Berkeley. So absolutely, there are halal restaurants in Berkeley. All right, we'll move on, Jeremiah.
All right, so let's talk about what can you do when you get here? What can you do besides study, right? Of course, you're going to be focusing on your studies, but when you're here, you know, like OK has mentioned before, the Berkeley and the Bay Area in general is just an incredibly diverse and really beautiful place with so many things to do. What I love about it is the natural beauty. It's just absolutely incredible. And I strongly encourage you to get out and explore the Bay Area while you're here. I've only been here in the Bay Area for about almost I guess it's almost been 2 years. So I guess I still feel new here, but I've been here for just about 2 years. I moved here and I'm really exploring myself. But I wanted to point out a few of the really some interesting things right in the Berkeley area. Some of these are on our slide here. As you can see, this top left one here, this is Zellerbach Hall, which has world-class performances. Also in the Berkeley area, we have the Greek Theater Berkeley, which hosts world-famous musicians, comedians, and performances. If you're into nature, there's so much to do. One option is the Tilden Regional Park, which is a 2,000-acre park right in East Bay, right near Berkeley. So there's so many opportunities to get nature, even though you're in a metropolis area. One option too is called the Golden Gate Park, which is a huge park right in the heart of San Francisco. I live in the city and I go there often. It's just huge green spaces with so much to do. Over here, Muir Woods National Park has these giant redwood trees that can really only be found in the west coast of the United States. And this is on the North Bay, just across that Golden Gate Bridge. So again, very close to us. Very unique things that you can only see in this part of the world. Lawrence Hall of Science is another attraction. So if you have kids, this is a great place with lots of hands-on science exhibits. And who can miss the iconic Golden Gate Bridge when you're here as well? Personally, I love sports. So we do have multiple major league teams here. We have 2 baseball teams in the area. We have the Oakland A's and the San Francisco Giants. So if you like baseball, or if you don't know about baseball and you're interested in learning about something completely different, it's a great opportunity. We also have the Golden State Warriors in the area. So if you like basketball at all, this is your chance to go and see Steph Curry live. There's also American football. American football, maybe you don't know much about it, but it's again, a very unique American experience. And we have the San Francisco 49ers in this area. And really, there is so much to do here in the Bay Area. I just listed a few things, but Jen, Hao, and OK, I want to really ask you, do you have any favorite spots or things to do in the Bay Area that you would recommend to these students? OK, do you want to start off?
Oh, okay. So for me, I am into nature. So, and Berkeley has lots, the Bay Area has a lot of greenery. I've been to the Golden Gate Park, and I normally go there just to refresh, to get away from the concrete city. And just behind our house, there's this big stadium for football lovers. And just by the side of the stadium is a kind of a small nature park. I always go there for hiking and self-reflection. I mean, there's the Zellerbach Hall, which hosts big shows like the TED Talks. I've been to a TED Talk there and it was wonderful. I've been to Alcatraz, to SF neighborhoods, to different parts of the city. The beautiful thing is you move 1 block further from where you are, you see something different, something beautiful. That's the thing about the Bay Area.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. OK, how about you, Jen Hao? Do you have any spots that you'd recommend for these students?
Yeah, I like doing outdoor a lot. So just on the east side of the campus, very super close, there is a fire trail. It's a quite accessible, easy trail. Everybody has beautiful, fantastic view of the Berkeley. And just take, I think, like 30 minutes to an hour walk. So highly recommend it. Also on the west side, near the ocean, is a place called like Berkeley Marina. And I think it's University has a kind of like sports program. One of them is very, very interesting. It's called Full Moon Paddle. I haven't been there personally yet, but my friends, they join this kind of activity so that you will paddle in the ocean in roughly around the sunset and into the night, where there will be and hold on a full moon day. So sounds very, very nice. But the spots you really got filled in very quickly. So be sure to check it out. It usually hold like several times in a semester, roughly.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jen Hao. And it sounds like a good date spot too, those boats. Sounds wonderful. Let's talk a little bit about transportation. And I do see some questions in the chat and the Q&A about cars and things. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But when you relocate to a new city and to a new country, figuring out how to travel around can be a challenge. Luckily, in the Bay Area, we have really great public transportation for the United States. So the first type of public transportation I want to talk about, and we've talked about it a little bit, is the BART, the Bay Area Rapid Transit. The BART is a train system that has lines all over the Bay Area. You can see these are the lines of the BART on this map. And you can see on this downtown Berkeley here, that's where UC Berkeley is going to be located. You see it on the red line. And in fact, I commute all the way down here, from down here into the city on a daily basis pretty quickly and pretty easily. It takes about 35 minutes for me to take that BART. So that's one of the best public transportation options in the area. Another option is called AC Transit, which is really for the East Bay over here. It's an Oakland-based, East Bay-based transit system. It has buses and other means of transportation to connect you to other places that aren't connected by the BART. And in the city, in San Francisco, there's the SF Muni, which is a similar thing to the AC Transit, but will connect you by buses and light rail around to different parts of San Francisco that the BART's not going to take you to. And when you're, excuse me. And when you're doing this, really how you should do this is there's this thing called a Clipper card that you'll use to put money onto this Clipper card. And that's how you use both the BARTs, the AC Transit, the SF Muni. So we have a Clipper card. And actually, I believe that there are some discounts for for students to get the Clipper card. I'm going to ask, okay, first, believe you know about the process for getting these discounted Clipper cards. What was your experience with this? And do you have any tips for taking public transit?
So alongside opening a bank account, the first thing you should do is to report when you arrive at Berkeley. You should report to your department, find your student advisor or officer. The person will help you get your identity card and the Clipper card. The Clipper card is really important. It gives you access to public transportation systems in the Bay Area. And so when you have that, you can use the bus, you can use the bus that drives around the Bay Area for free. I think for Berkeley students, it is free. So you really need to get that when you come. What was the other question? Sorry.
Oh, I guess too. Do you have any tips for taking public transit around? What have you used? And this question can be for you as well, Jen. What has been your experience with getting around Berkeley and the Bay Area on public transit?
Okay, so my any tips? For now, I don't think there's anything much about that, but you could just try to get your Clipper card as soon as possible, and you can have access to the bus systems in campus.
Excellent. And for the sake of time, I think we're going to keep us moving along. We do have a lot to get through. So getting around, let's continue our conversation about transportation. If you want to get outside of the Bay Area, so we talked a little bit about commuting by BART or the Muni or these options in the Bay Area, but if you want to take longer trips, there are some public transportation options. A couple of these are by train, called the Amtrak or the Caltrain being in California, Amtrak being all over the United States. There is also bus services called Greyhounds that can drive you around the United States. So these are some public options for traveling by rail or buses. But of course, there's also 3 international airports in the Bay Area. There's the San Francisco International Airport, there's the Oakland Airport, and the San Jose Airport itself too. Now I'm going to keep us moving because I do want to talk about the driving in California too. And in this section, I definitely want to get your input, Jen Howe, because I know you have some experience here. So driving in the United States is quite common. While the Bay Area has really great public transportation, that's not always the case across the United States. I'm from a different part of the United States. I just moved here a little bit ago, and we had very, very limited public transportation options. So in those situations, having a car is probably going to be the best thing for you to get around. But before we talk about getting a driver's license and what that looks like, I want to talk a little bit about Social Security numbers because they kind of tie together. Social Security numbers, Social Security number is a tax document. I will say that first. This is a document you can obtain only after you receive an on-campus job offer. So once you get a job offer, then you can go and apply for this Social Security number. So Social Security numbers are generally not required for F1, F2, or J1 students. If you're coming as a scholar, a J1 scholar, which is a different visa category, that's a different story, but it's not a requirement. However, if you are applying for a US driver's license, they're going to either, when you apply for this, they're either going to want to see that you have a Social Security number, which you can get, again, only after getting an on-campus job, right, offer, or you can have to go to the Social Security Administration office and receive a letter saying, I'm not eligible for a Social Security number yet because I don't have a job. And you'll use that letter then to apply for the driver's license. So a little bit of background about the Social Security number and how it ties to the driver's license. Also, I see some questions about, is it worth it to get a car? Can I drive on an international driver's license? It may be possible for you to drive on your foreign driver's license if it has an English translation on it. And typically that eligibility is for up to 1 year, but all of this depends on the country. So in the United States, you get a license in the state that you're in. So the state of California or the state of New York or the state of Texas. So you get a California driver's license, and the state of California's Department of Motor Vehicles have agreements with different countries. So you would need to contact the California Department of Motor Vehicles to determine, is there this agreement between your country and between California where you can drive on your foreign license if it has a English translation. One alternative is one of the questions we get here from Sanzar in the question about a international driver's permit. An international driver's permit is something you have to apply for from outside the United States. And this is something you definitely can drive in the United States on, and that is valid for up to 1 year. So that is an option for you. But if you're planning to drive into California or planning on getting a motor vehicle, we do recommend that you get a California driver's license. And this is going to be helpful for you in a number of ways. One way is that, you may want to have a form of ID with you. And, it's maybe not safe to carry around your passport. So having a California ID would be very beneficial for you. As well as if you're going to get a car, even if you can drive on your foreign license temporarily, everyone in the United States must get car insurance. It is a requirement to have car insurance in the United States. And if you're driving on a foreign license, it is going to be much, much, much more expensive. The car insurance is going to be more expensive if you're driving on a foreign license. It will be much, much cheaper if you can have a California driver's license. So another reason that we recommend you get that if you are planning on driving. If this is your first time applying for a US driver's license, you will need to take both a written and a driving test as well. And I see a question about, is it worth it? Well, it really depends on you, on what your plans are, whether you want to travel. I have a car and I have it in my garage and I barely use it. I only use it if I'm getting outside of the Bay Area and I'm wanting to see national parks or things like that. If I'm in the Bay Area, the public transportation is great. So in those situations, it's really up to you. How much are you driving? Where do you live? What's that commute look like? So really, that's a personal decision, but it may not be necessary. So Jen Hao, I know you have experience with driving here in the US. What process did you follow, and what did you need to be able to drive here in California?
Yeah, right. So I highly recommend, no matter you want to buy a car or not, get your California license as soon as possible. As Jeremiah just mentioned, to get a license, you need to first pass the written test and then a real driving test. I want to the thing I want to point out why having a license early would be convenient is, of course, that would be your ID, and also, even though if you don't have your car, having a license would be very, very handy when you want to use the car sharing service, like Zipcar, or the conventional car rental services. I live close to the campus, so I don't have a car. And basically, around the campus, I just take BART, bus, or walk. However, whenever my friends and I are going somewhere further away, like some national parks, it's highly likely that you will need to drive. And if you have a driving license, that you will be super, super helpful. You can go, the range you can access will be much, much broader.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Chen Hao. So we do have, I'm just keeping track of time. It's 1:52, so we're going to kind of speed through these last sections in general. Wasim, I'm going to pass it off to you for talking about family care and considerations.
Thank you. And if you are bringing family members along, there's a couple of things that are probably most important to think of right off the bat. Spouse, and by spouse we mean your partner, right? Educational and employment needs that they might have. Now it says there F1 versus J1. I'm going to post a link in the chat box to a page on our website where you can compare the different benefits of the F1 visa versus the J1 visa, because they are different. Of course, they're both student visas, but they do have kind of slightly different benefits to them. I'm going to post that link into the chat box. I'm sorry, you can then compare the difference between your education benefits and employment benefits for the F1 and the J1, and also the F2 and the J2. Okay, so in short, for those of you who are planning to come on a J1 visa and you have a spouse who will be on a J2 visa, they are allowed to apply for work permission and work in the United States. Okay, they do have to apply first and get an EAD card, but they do have that ability. Whereas an F2 visa holder does not have the ability to take up employment of any kind. So there's a clear difference already in terms of employment. In terms of education, there's also a difference for J2 spouses. They are eligible to study part-time or full-time in the United States, whereas with an F2, there are more restrictions. They can only do less than a full course of study. They can still enroll in academic programs, but they cannot get a degree, for example, while they are here. Okay, and they can participate in studies that are recreational in nature or avocational in nature. Okay, so there are some differences. I'm not going to go over all of them now, but you could check out the link that I posted in the chat box for you. And same with education. Okay, so with education for your children, childcare, there are lots of resources in our arrival guide and also on our website, which are maybe too much to get into now. It's just more something that you want to consider and kind of add in terms of your financial planning, logistics planning when it comes to just deciding where you're going to live. So I'm just going to maybe also post some of those links into the chat box as well. Some of those links in the chat box which are not in the presentation, you'll see, for example, sectionclub.berkeley.edu. This is actually a Berkeley-run club which has a weekly gathering of spouses at a place called The Center. It's actually right next, quite near our office here in downtown Berkeley. And they offer, classes for English if they still want to work on their English, support groups, clubs, and organizations. Similar with CalParents, calparents.berkeley.edu has a lot of centralized resources for those with children. Parentpress.com is kind of a more nationwide kind of media outlet where stories and newspaper articles about stories which are relevant for those with children come from. And then there's also Bananas Childcare, which is a resource, a community-based service for finding regular childcare or an occasional babysitter. So just some resources to maybe add to your ever-expanding list. Please check out our arrival guide for more information on that. There's a lot of information that we just cannot cover today for time. Jeremiah will talk about, I think, health insurance next. And okay, so guys, some quick questions at the top here. Is healthcare in the US free? The answer to that, I hope we all know, is no. Healthcare is not free. Whatever your healthcare system is like in your home country, it might be a lot easier to access healthcare in your home country than it is in the United States. So it's important to spend some time to understand what health insurance is and how it works. Do I have to get health insurance while I'm in the US? Again, that depends on the type of visa you have. If you have a J1 visa, then yes, you absolutely must have insurance. With F1, it's optional, but strongly, strongly recommended. You don't want a broken arm, for example, to cost you, life savings, for example, which it can if you don't have insurance. UC Berkeley does provide health insurance to its students. It has the Student Health Insurance Plan, also known as SHIP. And do you have to use Berkeley's insurance? You can, if you want, you can waive out of it If you have a different health insurance provider that you wish to use instead, as long as it passes the eligibility requirements, you can waive UC Berkeley's insurance. But otherwise, you would be using the Berkeley Student Health Insurance Plan. I mentioned the TANG Center earlier, University Health Services. This is really the go-to place, which covers pretty much all the range of services that you would need here as a Berkeley student. You are automatically enrolled in SHIP, so if you want to waive out of it, you actually have to go ahead and do that on the website. I'm seeing a question in the chat box, are there cheaper alternatives to SHIP? We have on the SHIP website alternatives to SHIP. However, medical plans are always changing in cost and they depend on various factors. So it's difficult to answer that question. I can tell you that the Berkeley plan, Berkeley provided plan, is competitive, in terms of the other plans that you will find in the area. So you might need to do a little bit of your own research there in terms of cost. But I do know that it's a competitive plan and very comprehensive and supportive of Berkeley needs. Yeah, so hopefully you don't have any issues with your health, but certainly it's possible. And that includes mental health, doesn't it, Jeremiah?
Absolutely. And I want to briefly touch on this slide just for the sake of time. I want to say that, anytime you're moving to a new place or a new culture, all of us, when doing so, will experience some forms of culture shock. And that doesn't just mean moving to a new country. Like I said, I moved from a different part of the United States, and I have definitely impacted by culture shock moving to California even. It happens to all of us. And it's important to note there are different stages of it. So when you get here, you're probably going to go through what's called this honeymoon phase where everything's great and new and interesting. But suddenly you're like, oh, I miss my food, I miss my home culture. And you're going to go through ups and downs of culture shock throughout your time here. Please note, we do have great suggestions for a smooth adjustment here on our website. But please note that this happens to all of us. So if you are feeling down, if you are feeling, homesick, and it doesn't always come across as homesick, it comes across in different ways. In whatever way it's impacting you, please note this is normal and impacts all of us. And there's resources here on campus to support you, including your mental health resources. We do have great, amazing service providers for mental health for our students on campus, people to talk to. But sometimes the best way to fight culture shock is just to make friends at UC Berkeley. Okay, it's already mentioned this a little bit before, but there's so many student clubs and organizations at UC Berkeley. There are hundreds. You can even make your own clubs and they get people to join your own clubs for your own interest. You can live in dorms, shared dorms like the International House, where people are all going through this culture shock together in different ways. And so it's a great way to combat culture shock, as well as just trying to make friends by doing things like getting on apps like this Meetup app or Bumble app. I use Meetup apps to try to find a soccer team when I first moved to California, right? So there's so many different ways. I just want to briefly ask OK and Jen Hao if they have any suggestions about how they experienced culture shock and what it was like for them. And, how do you combat that? What's some ways you made friends, things like that? But really briefly. OK.
Okay, so my experience in America was I had problem with the food. I come from a place that we eat spicy food, but here the food is mostly kind of sweetened, and yeah, I got around that quickly. Yeah.
Great.
Oh, okay. So you can make friends about settling in. I think the best thing you should do is just have an open mind. Don't always wait for people to say hi. You see someone, just say smile, say hi. It helps our mental health talking to people from other cultures, and living at International House is a very big education of its own for me, because I got to talk to people from Czech, from Germany, from Russia, from Mexico, from everywhere around the globe, and which is something phenomenal, something you can't find anywhere else.
Thank you. Okay. Do you have anything else to add, Jen Hao? Good thumbs up. I love it. And as we wrap up, Wasim, talking about a little bit about safety on campus.
Thank you. And I appreciate we are going over time, so I'll try to keep this as brief as possible, but there is a website where you can find out more about campus safety resources. Essentially, some of the resources you see on the screen there. Bear walk, late night shuttles, and door-to-door service. Essentially, if you have to travel late at night around the downtown area, campus area, and you are alone, then this is a great way to use one of these safety apps, which Bear Walk means that someone will actually come and walk with you to your destination. So someone from our Bear Walk service. Night safety shuttles are kind of like a small bus that can pick you up between these hours of 7:30 and 3 a.m. And door-to-door service, which is kind of like a small car that will take you to your residence. Okay, so just very quickly in terms of campus safety, of course, Berkeley is a major city, a major American city. It comes with major American aspects of city life. So in terms of being out late at night alone, you just want to take adequate precautions. And I think that's really what the purpose of this slide is there for you to see that there are resources for you. You can find out more about this in our arrival guide. Okay, maybe it's a good time for us to start wrapping up, and I appreciate that we've gone a little bit over time. So I thank all of you for your time today, and maybe we'll give it over to back to you, Mickey.
Okay, yeah, sure. Thank you, reps from Berkeley International Office, for sharing with us this rich information. And then I would like to thank you all for attending. We hope you've enjoyed this section as much as we've enjoyed having you. If you still have questions regarding the resources and information shared, please reach out to the Office of the Graduate Diversity. And then also, admitted students can meet with Diversity and Community Fellows office hours to learn more about their student experience. All these links have been put in the chat, so you can reach out to us, and then we are willing to help you with any questions that you have. Thank you very much.